it's Steve Hargadon, and we're over halfway through our second day, the final day of Library 2.013. We're really delighted to have Dr. Michael Stevens returning as a keynote speaker. Michael, thanks for being here.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we're going to dive right in, right? Oh,
well, I'm going to do a couple things here real quick. That's okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks to San Jose State University School of Library and Information Sciences. I just heard Michael refer to it as SLIS, and I thought that was the case, but I hope that's an appropriate abbreviation. Thanks to Follett, Blackboard Collaborate, and EdWeb, and to all of our partners for their support. Really fun to have just such an outpouring this year. This is a keynote event, and so that means that we've arranged with Connected Educator Month for people to be able to get a badge for coming to this event. At the end of the session, I'll take you to the badge site. To a slide like this that has a link to the badge site with a code for you to enter in. This is now a chance for those of you in the live audience to tell us where you're participating from. Look to the left of the map. You're looking for the star icon. We're going to click on that icon twice and click on the map. Many of you are well familiar with this exercise. Michael's coming in from New Zealand, right?
That's correct. Hamilton, New Zealand.
But you're not the only one showing up in New Zealand.
Yeah, who else is here in New Zealand? Is it somebody coming to Lianza?
Well, let us know in the chat.
Yeah.
And Sydney as well. How fun. Please keep your notes going in the chat as to where you're coming in from and any way in which you'd like to connect with people. Hungary, Bermuda, delightful. Love it.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to quickly turn the time over to you, Michael, and I'll be here to help out if I can in any way. And I'll also, any questions that come up in the chat, I'll put into the moderator tab so that you can refer to them quickly if you need to.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. If anything quirky happens with my connection, please, Steve, jump right in and let me know, and maybe we can take a breath for a second. It'll work its way out. So I will put into the chat right now a link to a full image version of these slides. Whenever we do this conference, I pull back some of the images just to make it a little easier for everybody to see everything. But there's a link that just went by for all of the slides with all the images. So I'm going to dive right in because I'm going to spend some time here talking about how learning and libraries go together, especially in 2013. I will say greetings from the future. It is 8 o'clock in the morning on the 20th of October here in New Zealand. So I think that's very cool. And I want to talk a bit about how libraries are evolving, but more specifically, how library technology is evolving, and it's sort of creating new opportunities and new landscapes for what we do in libraries. So here's a wonderful quote from Michael Buckland, and for the folks that are in class with me, you've probably seen this a couple times already because I think it really speaks to sort of looking at the future, and Michael is an LIS professor, and he wrote this in 1992. So even back in 92, we were thinking about what technology, what information technology would do to allow us to bring service to wherever potential users happen to be. So even long before cell phones or smartphones were the norm, Michael Buckland was looking at what was possible for outreach. Arthur C. Clarke said, and I think this is beautiful, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I think our example we should use today is the exact place and time we have found ourselves in, and that's here at this worldwide virtual conference where I am speaking to you from, for what to me is on the other side of the world from where I live, and you all are in your places, and here we are all together in this space, and I think that is most magical. There's a wonderful book by Nick Bilton called I Live in the Future, and here's how it works. And Nick looks at how technology has disrupted society over the years. And what I appreciate about this is how he goes all the way back to the printing press. And says, yeah, the printing press was a huge disruptor. And guess what? The telephone was a disruptor as well. He cites an article, an op-ed type article, where someone wrote that the telephone was going to be probably the end of civilization as we know it, and that people wouldn't want to leave their houses, which is kind of funny to think about. Then there's another title, Cognitive Surplus by Clay Shirky. This is one of my favorite books, and I use this to teach. And Shirky says there are 3 different ways that we might approach socio-technical change, or specifically that we might approach this great time of technological change. There are 3 ways. The first way is as much chaos as we can possibly stand. The second is traditionalist approval, and that's where the usual channels are followed, and the certain people in our libraries or information centers are the ones that have always taken care of certain things, and they keep taking care of those same things. And then finally, negotiated transaction, and that's where all the stakeholders come to the table and talk about things. So let me ask folks, just throw it into the chat room if you want to make a guess. What does Shirky advocate for? And some of you who are my students probably know this, but we'll just throw this in. I'm going to wait just a couple seconds, and we'll see some words go in to the chat. Okay, Lori, Lori got hers in there, and I'll say, Lori, this is what I advocated for years when I was out speaking to librarians and talking about technology planning. But guess what? Shirky says we should aim for as much chaos as we can stand. And this makes so much sense to me, especially for in this landscape that we're finding ourselves in. I know that we're finding ourselves in this landscape of MOOCs and mobile learning and all these different ways that we might learn about new things. So I think we should think about chaos, and we should think about that first part of the statement, as much chaos as we can stand. So we can decide as an institution how much chaos we can stand. And that's something I'd like you all to take away from the time that I get to spend with you today, is think about how much chaos you can address in your organizations, and inside say, yeah, inside of these boundaries, it's going to be a little messy, and there's going to be learning, and there's going to be mistakes made, and that's okay. And I appreciate the comment about the photo from the office. That was good. So we need to remember that technology is only a tool. It is just a tool, but the way that we approach technology can be useful or can be not so useful. It can be negative, or it can be kind of damaging to our institutions. So for example, I will ask you all to recognize that techno-lust is that wanting technology because it's super sexy and super cool. That is not the reason to have technology in our libraries. We don't want to just have technology for the sake of cool technology. Techno-stress is when it just seems like there's so much to think about, and there's so much to click on, and there's so many new social networks and so many new sites that we should be visiting, and so many things to keep up with. So that can be kind of a problem as well. Techno-divorce is that letting go of things when they don't work. And I think in libraries we have anecdotally had some trouble over the last few years with technology projects because it is so hard to let things go. Absolutely, we should use the tools that work for us, says Jenny. Techno-shame, oh my goodness. This is where in your library you look down the road or across the state or across the country or across the world, all the great examples that we're seeing today, yesterday and today in the conference, and we say, oh, we're not doing all those cool things, and then it's experiencing a bit of techno-shame. The cool thing is we can pick and choose what we might decide to focus on for the tools. Techno-hesitation is saying, well, at Library 2.013, I heard about this neat new technology, and I think we're going to do that next, but then, wait a minute, I heard about something else in the Library 2.0 network. What about that? And then you don't ever jump on anything. Something we've been talking about related to this is you may never have a maker space or 3D printer in your library, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't spend a little bit of time investigating what it's all about, just so you understand and see how it does fit into what you do. Technophobia is when, and this is really bad when it's administrators, is when you're frozen. You're just frozen because the wave of technological change, and I'll say it again, that wave of chaos is coming so quickly that we're almost frozen and we can't do anything. And library technology just seems like sort of stopped at a certain time and place, maybe when the phobia came on. Okay, now here's a new one, and we're going to give a shout out to our friends in the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, which I will tell you about in just a bit. This was suggested by one of the students as a really great descriptor for how in some of our institutions we find ourselves controlled by outside governing bodies. Our IT is so locked down that we can't do anything. Pamela, that's a great one there. Techno Revisit, that should be one I should incorporate as well. If you are under techno siege, you may find that your access to something like the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, which is blog-based, is blocked, or Facebook, or YouTube. And you're like, wait, I'm supposed to be watching videos on YouTube for my course, and it's blocked. So this is something that became very real just in talking to people in our MOOC and talking to folks in Australia when I did research there, that this is something to be aware of. So the other side then, while we have all these things going on with our technology and the way that we encounter technology, is that learning is evolving as well. So, on to the next slide. When I talk about learning, in the writing I do, in the presentations I do, and in the teaching that I do at San Jose, I use Mesereau's theory of transformative learning as sort of a framework or an approach that we might use to understand this. And I know I'm going to have to go back and review I see all these incredible comments. I can't look at them anymore because they're so incredible. So I'm going to focus on my slides, folks, but thank you. Just keep that stream of chat coming. Mesereau says that in transformative learning, as adult learners, and think about this because I think it fits so well, as we approach our world and we experience something new, we incorporate that into our already well-developed frame of reference, and it is an active process involving thought, feelings, and disposition. And those are key words: thought, feelings for sure, and disposition. So when I talk about learning, I'm talking about all kinds of learning. I'm talking about formal learning, and that might be in the classroom, that might be where someone is lecturing and you're taking notes, or any of the things that come under that banner, as well as informal learning. That might be across the desk at the library, it might be at the cafe, on campus, it might be really anywhere that learning happens. Now, I will also say that I think that curiosity thing that we get sometimes, where we get really curious and we investigate something and we might Google something or get online and look for a really good resource, I think following that sort of line of curiosity, and people call it berry picking or whatever you want to call it, I think that leads to learning as well. And I think that should not be dismissed as not being learning. I also believe we have a new generation of learners, a new age group where folks are experiencing the world in different ways, and they're experiencing it through technology. Very interesting, riding in the shuttle yesterday from Auckland to Hamilton, I shared the shuttle with a principal of a girls' academy in the area, and she told me about just the difference between her 18-year-olds who are graduating or soon to graduate, like they're just starting their final year, and her new students, who I believe are 13 years old. She said the difference in technology take-up between those two groups is pronounced. So we may consider ourselves, folks that might be a bit older, we're digital immigrants, this is all new. Even that 5-year span, that's so interesting that I think every new group that comes up, they're more and more comfortable with technology and learning through technology. From the Horizon Report comes this wonderful statement. The Horizon Report looks at technologies that will impact teaching and learning each year and in the coming few years, and it comes out every spring. It's a wonderful resource. I think everybody should look at it. And a couple years ago, they said with mobile technology, which is one of the things they said was going to be very impactful for teaching and learning 2011 and on, they said people expect to be able to work, learn, and study whenever and wherever they want to. And that is exactly what we're talking about today with learning everywhere. So into the mix is yet another resource. And if you do anything in your library with reading a book together or a book group, this is one that I want you to maybe put on your list. It's called A New Culture of Learning from Thomas and Brown. Absolutely incredible book. They look at what has happened to learning as we have moved from a very stable infrastructure in the 20th century, that sort of reading, writing, and arithmetic sort of viewpoint, and that sage on the stage sort of viewpoint, to the very fluid, participatory, social, networked, chaotic infrastructure of the 21st century. And they say, and this book really speaks to me, that information technology is a platform to share and network imaginations. So we saw Buckland say, with information technology, we can reach people wherever they happen to be, and now we have also found that it is a platform where we can share and we can network our lives and our imaginations. Thomas and Brown also say that the world is changing faster than ever, and our skill sets have a shorter life. So guess what? That means we always need to be learning. It doesn't stop at library school. It doesn't stop when you go to a conference once a year. It doesn't stop when you open your magazine and read it on the desk and you read a couple of articles in the professional journals. It should be ongoing, and I think it should be active and engaged. And we'll give a little hashtag to soapbox for that last little statement I made. Thomas and Brown also say that play is the basis for cultivating imagination and innovation. And again, these beautiful words like imagination and innovation. So let's talk about some different ways that we might experience learning in 2013. And I'm going to give you some examples just from my experiences and things I'm involved in to sort of illustrate these points. The first one is connected learning. And we're talking about my model of the Hyperlinked library, which I sort of use as a framework as well. The Hyperlinked library is a playful, useful, user-centered institution, and for the sake of our discussion today, the Hyperlinked library gives users a way to learn and connect. Connected learning can be many different things, and we're going to talk specifically now about MOOCs. And I'm going to tell you about a MOOC that I am currently co-teaching, but we'll also make the differentiation here between an X-MOOC, which is that great big giant, maybe 20,000 people in the MOOC, and you might watch a lecture and read an article and take a quiz, and then you do it over and over again, and there might be discussion forums where you have threaded discussions, and you might leave a message like that. So maybe some of you have taken an X-MOOC. Maybe some of you have found your way to a C-MOOC, which is a connectivist or collaboratory MOOC, and I'll go on to the next slide. And the MOOC I want to tell you about is a MOOC I'm co-teaching called the Hyperlinked Library, and it's a MOOC based on a class that I teach at San Jose SLIS called the Hyperlinked Library that we have ported over. We've kind of broadened it out. We shortened it by 3 weeks, but we've made it a version of the course for library information center, anybody involved in LAS professionals, as a professional development opportunity. And we'll get the URL pasted into the chat here so folks can see it, because I did post it on Twitter when I did a talk a few days ago. The MOOC is built on a couple of concepts. It's built on the concept of play, and that comes from Thomas and Brown and Henry Jenkins. And one of the reasons we're doing it is because we want people to make sense of things they encounter via experimentation, as well as reflection, the concept of reflection, where we explore our reactions to ideas by blogging. And there's our Labrador Cooper. He is way on the other side of the world in the great state of Michigan right now, so we miss him. He's looking at his reflection. So in the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, everyone has a blog, and in those blogs, they are actively reflecting on the material that they encounter. So here's our map of where students are from the MOOC, and we do have a wonderful representation from folks in New Zealand and Australia, which is super cool. And I think we have almost every continent represented except for Africa, although I do think one student may be coming from Africa but chose not to put a pin on the map when we did this exercise. So just some background. I apologize for the bullet points here, but this is a pilot project, the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, and you can follow that hashtag if you want to see what people are saying. We're doing something very unique, and I'm teaching with a SLIS lecturer named Kyle Jones, who he and I have been working on this for a few years, this platform of learning that I use for my courses, built on WordPress and a plugin suite called BuddyPress. So it is super cool. We have a great server that SLIS put together for us, running this incredible install of WordPress and BuddyPress, but we thought just because it is a pilot, we would aim for 300 to 400 people. A little bit more here, again in the bullet points. We announced the MOOC in March 2013, and we gathered interest from folks. We gathered 1,346 people's email addresses and a little bit more info. And we decided to send 600 registration emails this past August. So we thought with 600 we'd probably fall between our 300 and our 400 that we wanted, and we have 363 people registered right now. And as of week 4, it kind of started slow. Things really went up, and forgive me, I am not remembering exactly. I think we're in week 6 or 7 right now. Forgive me for not remembering that. Week 7, says Lisette. Thank you very much. Activity has increased even more. So a little bit more about connected learning in the Hyperlinked Library MOOC. Henry Jenkins says connected learning is built on 3 things. A shared purpose is the first. So we're going to learn about the Hyperlinked Library model. The next is it is production-centered. That means assignments are practical artifacts, such as a technology plan. So our students are writing technology plans, they're writing social media guideline statements, they're writing community engagement plans, and don't laugh because it's an incredible assignment. They're writing book reports. They're choosing books related to a socio-technological standpoint and writing a book report, and those book reports are flowing right now with the hashtag, and look for that to see if you see a book you'd like to read about. It's really incredible. And finally, the third thing is we are openly networked. We are wide open, we are live and on the web. And I will say just a couple words here. All of our lectures from Kyle and I are live and open on the web. All of our guest lectures were recorded, I think mostly in Google Hangouts and YouTube. So they are live and open and free to look at on the web, as well as all of our resources. And a special thank you to Information Today for giving us copies of the book Library 2.0 to give to every student in the MOOC, which I was really impressed with. So that's a bit about the Hyperlinked Library MOOC. I will answer a question right here that I saw go by a couple times. Will we be doing the Hyperlinked Library MOOC again? As I said, this is a pilot. I don't have anything definite. I am feeling in my heart of hearts that I think it would be a very wise thing to do. We are learning so much, and I think the next go-round would be even more special and more exciting, and we could involve more people. So I don't have a definite answer for that, but please keep checking at the San Jose State University SLIS page and checking at Tame the Web, and we for sure will let people know. So, oops, I'm sorry, got a little excited there. Mobile learning, I guess I can go forward. The Hyperlinked Library offers collections and access anywhere. So let's talk about what this means, mobile learning. We saw that little quote from Horizon, but here's another one. This is from Pew Internet and American Life, and I know this is a little maybe North American centric, but I think it is very telling. The mobile device will be the primary connection tool to the internet for most people in the world in 2020, and that's from Pew Internet in American Life's Look at the Future of the Internet. So they're saying that by 2020, it's going to be that smartphone or that tablet or whatever else comes after that. And I think that's true. And I think it probably will be even sooner. This is a neat graphic from a study from AOL and BBDO. You can follow up there with the link. And again, these slides will be here as well as the slide link that I gave you. But I like this because the group that did this study used descriptors for how we spend our time on our phones. And if you look at the great big yellow, that half circle, that is me time. I'm doing air quotes here in my hotel room. Me time. And that's that time that we spend doing all that, like looking at a video or looking at a gossip site. I don't want to say it's silly stuff. I don't want to say that because I don't think we should ever make those judgments. But it's that stuff we choose to sort of have that time that may, just for our own interest and our own clearing our brains. And yeah, I might put my eyes on a gossip site sometime. Sure, an entertainment site, or I might play a game or whatever. I do believe, though, that me time, as well as many of these other things, discovery time, preparation, shopping, maybe not shopping, accomplishing things, all of that can also be learning time. So you might want to follow up on that and look at those a little bit closer. There are 6 billion active cell phones worldwide. I think that's a big deal as well. And I think we are finding our way to the idea that we should take our collections and put them into people's hands. And this is an example, I love this example, from the British Library of one of their apps. And the British Library has put out incredible apps. This one is devoted to maps, where I can get information about their historical map collection. I can do a little tap tap, and I can then see a real good high resolution scan of that map. I think that's fascinating. Okay. Before I tell a story, I will say that yes, that 50% for me time, and it scrolled by, I can't see who it was, that tips a lot of preconceptions on its head. I think that's very, very true. And yeah, I agree, the British Library is absolutely amazing. So I think we're struggling with this, with putting things into people's hands. A couple summers ago, I became really enamored of a song from the 1960s, a Southern Gothic, very simple but a beautiful song that told a story, and I wanted to know more. I'm a librarian, of course. I did that librarian thing where I started searching for more information about the songwriter, the song lyrics, what the song meant, how popular it was, what its history was, and I found that there wasn't that much information because it's so mysterious. There's just so much conjecture. But then somebody said on a website, you know, the original 5 legal pad pages of the song lyrics in the author's handwriting are available at blank university in a southern state in the United States. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I really want to follow up on that. And I looked everywhere trying to see if I could get access to it on the web from my place up in northern Michigan. I didn't find anything. I turned to my personal learning network, which is one of the things I use is Twitter. And I asked people, help, you know, does anybody have access to this, or can anybody see a way to get it? And one person wrote back and said, well, I found one page on a website not related to the university archives, but sort of connected. It was kind of weird. So I contacted the library directly. And I got an answer back. I said, well, you know, I'd really like to see this. I'm kind of interested. I am a professor, although it really wasn't like for research. But it turned out to be kind of a touchstone moment for me. And I got a reply back that said, no, we haven't made that available due to issues of preservation and of copyright. And frankly, in my opinion, IMHO, in my humble opinion, I don't agree with that. I certainly don't agree with preservation. I think that should be something that should be preserved. Forgive me in my morning words here, everybody. It should be preserved, and it should be made available for most everybody to see. And I really don't think there should be issue with something being that unique for copyright. So here is my next soapbox moment. If you have something in your library or information environment that is the coolest, most unique thing to your environment, you should make it available to anyone and everyone via mobile access, because that is the most unique stuff we have, and that is what sets us apart. It might be the historic postcard collection of Northern Michigan that my library, the Traverse Area District Library, curates and puts out on the web for people to access via any device. And it might be the song lyrics that I really wish were available out there. So we'll have a tiny little quiz here, and if you think you know the name of the song that I'm talking about, go ahead and throw it into the chat, and we will continue. There's also the concept, okay, it looks like my audio may have done a little blip, that I sound chipmunky. So, I apologize for that. And I'm just going to keep going unless it gets really bad. And Steve, just let me know if it gets really bad, okay? So let's talk about participatory learning. Okay, and absolutely, if you know the name of the song, go ahead and throw that into the chat again, and remind me, I'll tell you all at the end. So participatory learning is three-pronged. It engages users to add to library services. Ding, ding, that's it, Steve. Well done. It engages users to add to library services. It offers the chance for users to plan with librarians, maybe new services or new ideas. So it really transcends learning to sort of just users being so involved in the library that they are an integral part of it, which is the way it should be. And it offers a mechanism for evaluation. So what does this look like? I think this looks like the DIY history project at the University of Iowa Libraries, where they are working on transcribing handwritten recipe collections from 1600 to 1960. And I'm going to go forward a slide here. And this is why these are the images I really wanted you all to see. This is why I pulled back on some of the other images, so these things, hopefully they're loading quickly. This is an example of the American Cookbook, and you'll notice that some of the pages are completed, meaning that they have been typed out, they've been transcribed, and then they've been reviewed. So two people have put their eyeballs on them. And this is a project that they've opened up to the university community and probably beyond to say, hey, help us do this. And can you imagine the learning that is going on as people participate in this project? And that's why I'm calling it participatory learning. It's fascinating to me. And again, remember, where imaginations play, learning happens, and that's something that Thomas and Brown say in their book. This is a neat example, and I want to give a shout out to Mal Booth, who is a librarian in Australia, one of my favorite of many, many favorite countries. And Mal was just in the United States, and he took a tour of the Hunt Library at North Carolina State University. And he put up this photo in his, I believe it was Instagram or into his Flickr feed. I grabbed it from Flickr, and thanks, Mal, for letting me use this. This is a screen displaying in the library the Instagram scavenger hunt that the library just did with students and anybody that wanted to participate, where students, faculty, staff, whoever were taking Instagram photos around the library, because they just did a big, beautiful remodel. They could take an awesome photo, it says, of the Hunt Library, upload it to Instagram, and then tag it with their little hashtag. So this, to me, is participatory learning. This is user participation in the library, and this is sharing what becomes a very unique, and I'll say it because I saw it just go by from Kendra, I think this is a unique and special collection from this library. It is a collection created by the users, representing in what I see as a very artistic and creative way a moment in time of this library. And I think this is something that we should do more of. And I will charge you, all of you listening and all of you that will hear this recording, with finding a way to engage your users in something like this, which is so creative and so steeped in learning. Oh, and thanks for the Singapore link. I need to follow up on that. Very cool. So how do we start these things? How do we get something like this going? I would suggest we start with a bit of self-directed digital learning. Before we understand how we can participate and how we can help our users in MOOCs. And before we understand how we could be delivering learning objects and things that people could check out in mobile applications, we should ourselves start with exploring all of these avenues. And I'm going to go all the way back to Learning 2.0 in 2006. And in internet years, folks, that 7 years is a long time. Could we say that's like 70 internet years? The program has been around that long. It has been replicated over 1,000 times. Learning 2.0, also known as 23 Things. Last conference, I believe it was, or it might have been the first Library 2.0 conference, I got to talk a bit about my research surrounding Learning 2.0. Here's just a little blast from the past of some of those slides. We found in our Australian research, I was working with Warren Cheatham from Townsville City Libraries. Shout out to Warren. We looked at how Australian library staff had benefited from Learning 2.0, and you'll see here that comfort, confidence, and a willingness to explore, all of those after the program were rated very highly as things that folks felt and wanted to do because of participation in the program. And you guys are reading my mind. I saw it go by from Catherine A. 23 mobile things. Big shout out to Jan Holmquist and the creators of 23 Mobile Things, and we're going to be hearing from them, and I have a little bit I'm going to talk about, and I believe this is the next the next session after this one, or coming up in the next few sessions. I have a recording. I'm not going to be live for that one, but I've already done the recording, so you all can hear a little bit about 23 Mobile Things, which is, I should tell you what it is. It is a version of Learning 2.0 centered on using mobile applications. And Megan, thank you. It is immediately after this one. I will invite you all to look at that, to go to that one, or to look at the recording afterward. So developed by Jan in Denmark, and then Miley and some other folks jumped in and made this a global program that you can participate in. And a big shout out to the Australia-New Zealand group that sort of took the program, and just like people replicated Learning 2.0, they did the same thing, and they've been running, which I think we could define 23 Mobile Things, especially the Australian New Zealand version that they're running off of that beautiful website, very much as a MOOC of its own, a MOOC of its own. So just to give you a little hint of what we found with this program, and it really echoes what we found with Learning 2.0. We asked people before and after the original program in Denmark how to rate their knowledge of mobile applications on devices. So it was from I have no understanding, I have a limited understanding, I understand only parts, to fair, and then high understanding. Take a look. The before is the darker gray. Before, we had a good number of folks on the I have no understanding, limited, and only parts. But look at the white bars. That's the after the program. I know, I'm really pleased with this. And this is something I'm going to be writing up for an article for next year. 58% after completing the program said, I have a fair understanding and can chat about mobile apps and technologies. And look at how that 4% for high understanding jumped to 24%. And I really would say this is, as Martin says, a big success story. So what this should come down to then, and I really appreciate getting to spend time with you all and to talk about this, is I think we have such wonderful things that we can do with technology, that we can have these great big open landscapes online for learning, and they can be global. They can be global in the Hyperlink Library MOOC. They can be global in this conference. And consider for a second the potential that we have just to keep this moving forward with the way that we have professional development here for us, for LIS people, for people that work in libraries and information centers and school librarians and teachers and everyone, as well as then taking these things, MOOCs and learning environments, and then turning them over to our users. And it is not out of the question for me to tell you all, and I have a column that's going to go up at Library Journal any day now, it's already in the new print issue, that I believe these kind of landscapes, the learning everywhere landscapes that we're talking about are a perfect fit for libraries to be offering classes like this. Public libraries, for sure, you might put up a local MOOC or a LOOC or L MOOC or a whatever it might be, or a SOOC, a small open online course that is totally tailor-made for your users, for what your users are interested in. It might be small business, it might be keeping skills up for those coming back into the workforce, it might be whatever. And I also think we need to look at these models as a way for people to have professional development no matter where they are. And I just saw go by budget restraints, small libraries, desperate for technology, etc. Absolutely, I think these type of environments can be very helpful. If you ask me, what roles do I see for librarians in future iterations of what MOOCs are and will become? I see a few things. I see that role of learner. I want to charge you with something. I want you all to try out a MOOC. It doesn't have to be the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, but it can be any MOOC, to see what it's like and to see what's happening. And I know we have people in our MOOC right now that's one of the reasons they're there. I will also say that you will have the role of teacher in the future. You will probably be assisting teachers or faculty or people at your public library or people in your corporation to create learning objects for large-scale learning online. This is a new and big thing, and I think we will only see more of it. I will also say I think we will play the role of connector, and that is connecting people with the resources they need to be successful in the MOOCs they take. And I will say, I had a comment on an article that kind of irked me, that someone said, well, Michael, I think you're being a little unrealistic, that public librarians should consider supporting people that are taking giant classes. We don't know how any of that works. We don't know anything about that, and I'm sorry, that is not a good excuse. If somebody comes in your door and needs help, as a library, we should be there to serve them. I don't think we're going to say, well, are you in a MOOC that we can support, or are you in a MOOC that we're not? And finally, thank you for that. Learning is learning, MOOC or not. And finally, I see the role of collaborator. In our MOOC, people are going to make videos, they're going to make digital artifacts, and one of our students might come into your library and say, hi, I need to make something for the virtual symposium in the Hyperlinked Library MOOC, and I need a little bit of help understanding how to best do a video. Can you help me? And I want that librarian across the desk or that information professional or that staff member to say, oh yeah, I can help you. Let's sit down here in the digital learning lab and I'll show you how. And that to me illustrates how beautiful this sort of movement, this flow between what can happen in large-scale online learning spaces and into our digital learning spaces in our library can be. So learner, teacher, connector, and collaborator. And there you go. That is a good tweet of the day. So this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Thank you, guys. So I will say this about technology with heart, and to wind up, the Hyperlinked Library uses technology to engage the heart, the mind, and the spirit. We have to remember all three of those things. We have to remember how important the heart is to what we do. So as a way to wrap up, as a way to give a little bit of a big picture, go forth and do these things, I'm going to ask you to break down barriers. It is never too late to lurk in our MOOC. I'm going to ask you to go to your libraries, to look at your most unique collections, and look for ways to get these things in the palm of people's hands so they can experience them as well. And I want you to watch the horizon. Watch for the next things that are coming. Look at the Horizon Report. Look at what we're talking about here in this wonderful conference experience. This stuff that feels so uncomfortable and chaotic, and you might be like, oh, do I have to know about that? Yes, it would be really good to watch that horizon and know a little bit about these things that are coming. And always be learning. I know I have former students here in the room. I have students I'm working with on projects. I have MOOC students in the room. The minute I stop learning, I am of no use to any of you. I am of no use to Steve in this wonderful conference. I have to be learning as well, because that's something we all should be doing as part of our professional lives. And know that it's okay to fail. Know that it's okay to learn from the things we do. And maybe a future thing we should look at is the like having a little module or something we do in our MOOC or here at the conference where we look at things that haven't gone the way we planned and what we learned from them. I think that can be really useful. And we need to invite our users in. Invite them in to look at our stuff and to work on things with us. Absolutely. And we need to take risks. And one of the most transformative experiences I've had of late in a physical conference was attending the Risk and Reward Conference a year ago. And I think I talked about it last year at Library 2.012. The Risk and Reward Conference in Telluride, Colorado brought together some library folk from mostly Colorado, from all over the U.S. And this was the shirt they wore. The organizers wore, "Better safe than sorry may be the most dangerous thing ever said." And I think we need to remember that. And I think we need to think about how we might take some risks in our jobs, in our professional lives, in our professional development, and as institutions. And it might be doing some things that we hadn't thought of before. And I think we should be really, really creative with what we do. And again, think about what could we do with Instagram to excite our users or to give them a creative outlet? Or what could we do? We've seen some great examples in our MOOC of using the bulletin board at the library as a place to interact with patrons. Use a Post-it to put up your favorite book title or what cool movie you just watched that really spoke to you or whatever. So think about those really creative things that you might do. And finally, in everything we do, I just want to ask you all, as I usually do at this time when I wind up, is to please bring your heart with you, because this isn't about technology, and we didn't come together today to talk about technology. We came together today to talk about how learning can flow across geographic boundaries and how learning can happen in such a way that it can be so important for people in their adult learning lives, as well as supporting our learners throughout their school careers and university careers. And through all of that, I think we should bring our hearts with us. And that is, yes, Jenny, it is passion. It is the spirit that you bring to your work. It is that service ethic, that thing that we do because we love to do it. It is that thing that we bring with us. So, wow, Megan, thank you for that. Here is my contact information. I'm really happy that we have some time that we might take a couple of questions. And thank you all for getting me fired up on a Sunday morning so I can go on to some cool Lianza conference activities. So, so for questions, do we want to ask questions or like somebody raise a hand or ask them or however you want to do it?
So I'm going to give microphone privileges to everyone. And
great, cool.
It's easiest if you raise your hand first, but feel free to raise your hand and or grab the microphone to ask Michael a question. You can put a question in the chat. I think you caught the two questions that did go by in the chat. I'm interested in sort of the way in which both in traditional education and in the library world, it feels like we're crafting new stories. And how much do the stories need to be the same, and how much can libraries actually have now maybe different stories, like the library's makerspace versus the library's community hub versus information center?
That is a really gorgeous way to ask that question. I like that, Steve. Thank you. And I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be the same exact story. Every story should be unique to the community that the library serves. So it will be all of those things. And it might not be that there's a makerspace in the library. It might be that community hub thing, exactly like you said it. And I think becoming aware, and I think that's a lot of what I've been trying to do of late to get people thinking, just becoming so aware of how to best serve the community is the same, at the same time, you're best understanding the story that you're telling as a library or information center. And yes, being one step ahead is, I think that's a good thing to do, absolutely. So we will take questions, and I would love to hear somebody's voice from somewhere.
I'm just going to keep asking questions until someone else does.
Okay.
Only to be encouraging. Okay, so Helena says, how do you scan the horizon?
Oh, great. And yeah, I wish we had a lot of time to talk about trend spotting. For sure, the Horizon report from EDUCAUSE and New Media Consortium every spring, not just for educators, not just for university folk, but for anybody working with teaching and learning. And guess what? That's all of us. Look at some of the trend spotting type blogs, the technology blogs. Look at any of the roundups that some of the publications do, like Technology Review will do that once a year, the emerging technologies. All of those things help us sort of see what's coming. But also in your own like professional and for fun reading, if you see something, make a splash in, I'll be kind of US centric here, forgive me, in the USA Today, as well as maybe one of the news weeklies, that's something probably to pay attention to, because that means it's something impacting the U.S. or wherever. So just think about those sort of trendy things in your own countries where the new stuff is highlighted. If it gets to those, that's probably something to watch. Oh yeah, and Twitter. So Twitter, it's so much to be said about Twitter and following some of the technology forecasters. Oh. Okay, I just saw a post. Kind of went quickly.
Would you like me to
about a new library? Or yeah, would you please, Steve?
So this is Sarah. She says, I'm an LIS student just beginning, and I'm looking at, for my dissertation, how we might transform the Bermuda National Public Library and bring it into the 21st century. How can I even begin to figure out what we should be doing and where we should be going? I'm not yet working there.
Well, congratulations on being a new LIS student. That's great. I think the road forward will become more clear as you start your coursework and you have those the foundation, the core classes, those foundational things. What are libraries all about? And then I think something you should do, and I think you can, just from seeing what's been exchanged in the chat here, there's some wonderful resources to kind of stay on top of what's going on and what changes are happening and how to sort of see what trends are really making an important impact. I think that's a good word, important impact in libraries. And again, one of the things you may do in your dissertation is to recommend that the Bermuda National Library be start as soon as possible in doing user focus groups or user studies in various ways to get the information of what they want. And I see some folks sharing some really cool things there as well. So yeah, I don't think you're going to know every single thing to do right now starting your program, but I think you're going to be on the right path if you follow some of those suggestions. And I would urge you to, as Megan said, to tap into the Hyperlinked library community. You might look at Hyperlib, which is the hashtag we use for the course, or Hyperlib MOOC, and take a look at our MOOC site for some of the content. You might find it really inspiring to look at some of those guest lectures. So I wish you the best for that too. Thank you.
Michael, this has been terrific. I'm so delighted to have heard from you again. We've been encouraging our keynotes to finish about this time so people can take a break for the next sessions. Should we wrap it up now, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's great.
I'm clapping for Michael. You have to find the clapping button.
Thank you.
You hover over the smiley face and go down to applause. It's my one big feature request of Blackboard Collaborate that they put the clapping icon there in those with the other four main ones. But in either case,
absolutely.
Raise your hands or you've made the smiley face. Michael, that's all of us applauding you.
Oh, thanks everyone. I really appreciate this chance to talk to you all this way. And this is my first time in New Zealand. I am so excited to be here.
Thanks everybody for coming. So much fun. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to put your slide back up again so that your contact information is there. We do need you to exit the room, everybody, within the next few minutes so the recording can process, but that recording becomes available in about 5 minutes. Take care and bye.
Bye. Thank you.